Here on this Tuesday morning, getting you set for LSU and Texas A&M coming up this week. Remember, we have talked about this matchup for a while now, and it has set up to really be one that I don't know if anyone anticipated this going into the season, where you'd be talking about a pair of undefeateds in the league and really the only two remaining, with so much on the line when LSU makes the trip to Kyle Field in late October. And that's what we have coming up here on Saturday night. LSU making the trip over to College Station, a spot where LSU hadn't won since 2016, and a spot that should be one of the big atmospheres and environments in college football on Saturday night. Billy Lucci is a great friend of ours. He runs Tex Ags. He's over at texags.com. If you want information on A&M, not just football, anything really about the Aggies, you go to Tex Ags, and it all originates from Billy Lucci and his crew. They do an incredible job over there of covering the program, and he joins us now here this morning. Billy, good morning. How are you?
Jordy, what's up, brother?
It's good to talk to you, man. Did you think that this game was going to be this big?
Of course I did. No, I would have thought both teams would have, if things were going okay, 2 losses. Yeah. If things were not going all right, it could have been a 3-3 A&M versus 3-3 LSU or whatever. Obviously A&M would be game 8, but I in no world did I think either of these teams were going to be elite. And I thought LSU. I had my questions about you guys, and I certainly have my questions about A&M in year one under Mike Elko. Where A&M's at is about as good as I could have envisioned. Like if you're saying, okay, you got your maroon colored glasses on before the season, this is kind of to me what it would have looked like to say, okay, there's a game against LSU coming up, like you said, in late October, that both teams are on a roll. Both teams have long winning streaks. Both teams are brimming with confidence, and the winner is going to have the inside, not the inside track, but have a nice look at the SEC title game in Atlanta and a playoff berth. And so, yeah, it would have been pie in the sky.
Elko's doing this with 11 transfer starters. That is pretty cool to see. And watching his press conference yesterday, he seems very much like a player's coach. What's it been like, Elko, year one, the new faces and where they are now? What has it been from his leadership?
He is, you're right, he's a player's coach, but he's also, the players know he's their coach. You know what I'm saying? He's not their buddy. He's not someone they run to for cover when Tommy Moffett, when they don't get done in the weight room what they're supposed to do, he's not the guy that they know they can run to as their buddy and get, there's real discipline there. And if you go to practice, he's also got plenty of hard ass in him. It's not, but it's constructive. It's not demeaning or belittling. And he's a ball coach, but he's a ball coach in 2024, and he gets it. And he's also a really likable guy off the field and around the building, and it plays. It really does. And I knew that part would play. I didn't know how quickly he'd get buy-in from his players, because there is actually quite a bit of discipline that goes with everything he's doing in there. And there's accountability, and you don't skirt punishment when you screw up, whether that's school related or meetings or anything off the field. There's accountability, so sometimes in today's day and age with the coaching change, you're going to get a lot of pushback there, but he's not, and they're working them. I'm sure you guys, there's plenty of people over in purple and gold that know a lot more about Tommy Moffett than I do in a short period of time, but that's been a game changer as well, and he's letting him cement culture in the off season. So it's been refreshing to see. And so even if that record was what we talked about and they had dropped a couple of close games, I would still feel really good about where it's at. But the fact that they're winning right now, is the type buy-in that it takes, to win in year one. And you guys saw that a few years ago with Brian Kelly, where that was pretty. I don't know. I can't speak for y'all, but I would say that was pretty unexpected from where I sit.
For sure. I mean, to wind up in Atlanta in year one was definitely a surprise.
Yeah.
What about Billy? I think this is the best offensive line in the country taking on the best defensive line in the country. I mean, does that play?
Ask Jeff Lebby. I mean, I know about y'all's O-line, LSU O-line. I've watched it. Last year, this year, they're dominant. They're really good. And I think if people in Austin were wondering if they had the best O-line in the country, that question was answered by a guy wearing number 11 in red and black on Saturday night. But no, I think LSU is the best O-line. I do. And I think that Texas A&M is the best D-line. Just ask Jeff Lebby.
Yeah.
I mean, Lebby, Mississippi State's played Texas and Georgia thus far, and he said that's the best defensive line we've seen all year. And I didn't even think they had that was one of those games where they got after it, but the biggest name guys weren't the ones pouring in the stats, and
right.
Shamar Stewart and Nick Scorton. Scorton was playing. Elko said he was sick all week. The week prior, he was cramping up like in the abdomen throughout that game. So that was I don't even think 11 was at his best, and Lebby walked away going, that's the best one we've seen. So here's the thing, Jordy, that they've got too. They've got edge twitchy guys. They've got inside guys that are really athletic and quick and active. They've got power inside, and then they've got two ends that. They've got the edge twitchy guys on the edge that no one really talks about that could change a game, or in Rylan Kennedy and the Bowling Green transfer Cassius Howell. They can really get after you on the outside. But their starting ends are Nick Scorton and Shamar Stewart, who Scorton will probably be a first-round pick and maybe top half of the first. And Shamar Stewart, most scouts I talk to that come to practice, they think one thing of him, and they think he's really good, and then they walk away going, he moves and looks, he looks like Jadeveon Clowney, but he's a lot more flexible and athletic. Now, I'm not saying he's the number one pick. I'm saying, though, if they view him as a second round, third round type pick, when they get there, in their mind, they're already moving him up. And some point is, I think they got a first and second rounder just at end.
Yeah.
So
the move
it's nasty, and the depth is what LSU will not have seen. I know Ole Miss is good up front, but the depth will be what will make this a great battle for 4 quarters, I think.
The move to stick with or insert Wegman back in after the run that Reed had gone on, how was that taken locally? What did you think of that move when it was made, and where does that stand now with Wegman after last week's performance?
I liked it, and here's why. If you were watching those games, Marcel was improving. I think he checked every box that I ever want to see in a quarterback in terms of like all the intangibles, and I think he's just going to get better and better. But he was not quite seeing it. You'd watch Arkansas and even Bowling Green, and their open receivers that he was missing, like in terms of just not throwing it to. It was kind of one, maybe a second read, and then try to take off. And then you saw Arkansas and kind of basically say, okay, we're going to defend where he can't run very much. You saw the offense bog down, the passing game in particular. So I got it. Like, Connor was their guy from the day they got here, watching these guys. From tape, from the spring, through the offseason, through fall camp. Everyone, that was making decisions in that building felt like that was their best chance to win. So when the guy goes out and stinks it up against Notre Dame in one game, and then Marcel comes in and you're happy he went 3-0, and that's exactly like what you would hope your backup quarterback would do, and they usually don't. So I think Marcel's future is incredibly bright. It's a lot brighter after seeing what he could do. But to me, if you thought for, 8 months, that 15 was your best chance to win because of what he can do in the passing game, because of how he reads defenses, how quickly he gets rid of the football. I think that's exactly what you go with, because that running game is pretty damn good, Jordy. And you can't let teams just stack the box and outnumber you without making them pay in the passing game. That's the whole point of having that type of running game, right? And you can't let Le'Veon Moss and Amari Daniels get diminished. And what is a good offensive line for A&M all of a sudden, you can't let them be ineffective because a team can stack, 8, 9 guys in the box. And so Connor was the answer to that, and he didn't play well against Mississippi State. But if you he should have thrown about 4 picks. I know he threw 2. That was bad. But if you watch that game compared to Notre Dame, he's still, like, his bad game is still a lot better than what people thought he was there at Notre Dame. That was a really bad one. But even against State, he made some big-time plays and throws. So I think coming back, that's going to be the X factor, is how does Connor bounce back from that performance? Because if he's on and in rhythm, this offense is actually pretty tough to stop because of the running game. Because if you can't just sell out to stop that because Connor's making throws, and you guys saw it a couple of years ago. Everyone talks about A-Chain. When Connor was good in that football game, he wasn't the reason they won. That was Devon, but Connor was good. He made some really good throws early. He scrambled a few times to move the sticks. He's not a running quarterback, but he will move the chains for you. And then as the game went on, he's not afraid to take shots to let his receivers make plays.
Is this the biggest game in the new Kyle Field? Or at least one of them, huh?
I think it's the biggest, Jordy. I mean, A&M has – this is the thing. And anyone – and I don't know who said it. I know recently it was these clowns from Missouri. Anyone that says that Kyle Field isn't a great home field advantage just doesn't get it. And I mean, and everyone will see it this Saturday night, win or lose. It's going to be an incredible atmosphere. But the reason the numbers don't say it is because Texas A&M, and you guys know this because y'all rub it in our faces every chance you get, just like we would to you. A&M has not been really good program for the better part of 20 plus years. So when you're playing number 1 Bama or number 5 LSU, like those are the ones A&M's won, but it's not. They're typically not the better team that takes the field. Death Valley at night, I've been there many times. I'm hoping to come in a couple weeks when you guys take on Bama. But it's an incredible atmosphere, but it's a lot more incredible when LSU's ranked in the top 5 and competing for a national title. And so Texas A&M, during that stretch where LSU more often than not is the better football team when they're playing at home at night, the opposite has been true for A&M in these big games, and they still get a lot of really big wins at home. I'd say this is A&M now is trying Saturday night to beat LSU as a top 10 team for the third time in 4 trips there, right? 2020 they weren't, but 18, 22, and this would be 24. Like that's what they're trying to do here. So that atmosphere is great. The big games there, Jordy, I think that my point of saying all that was that there hasn't been a whole bunch of them to this magnitude. And because we're in late October, like you said,
right.
A&M Bama in 2013, the rematch, Johnny and Nick Saban, it was after Bama won it. But here's the thing, that was the first SEC game.
Yeah.
2012, Johnny versus LSU. Nobody cared about that game. You guys had a loss or two. A&M had a loss. No one really thought much of them at the time. That was an 11 a.m. game.
That's right. With
Odell and Landry and Johnny and Mike Evans, 11 a.m.
Jeremy Hill.
So Jeremy Hill, was he the one that took over in the fourth quarter there?
Yeah.
That one? Yeah. So that game, and Bama coming in, that's only because of Bama, even when A&M upset them. So, yeah, I would say there's not even a question in my mind. A&M played Tennessee in 2016. They were both undefeated. It was a top 10 game. College game day was there. It was in October, but it was early October. No one in their right mind thought either of those teams could beat Bama in 2016. Right. Bama was winning the conference. It was not going to be A&M. It was not going to be Tennessee. So this year, against this opponent, LSU, both teams doing what they're doing, and everyone in college football knows that the winner of this game will have a really nice look at the playoffs and reaching Atlanta. So yeah, I think it's the biggest one that's been played in the new Kyle Field.
I expect the environment to be jumping as it will be on tilt. I think it's the biggest game in the country. I think the national spotlight will be in College Station, Texas on Saturday when LSU travels in there with a pair of undefeateds in the league taking on one another in late October for a chance to put themselves in the driver's seat of the SEC. You want Texas A&M information, there's only one spot for it. That is texags.com. That's our friend Billy Lucci. Great inside stuff this morning. We appreciate it, man. We'll catch up soon.
All right, Jordy. Thanks, buddy.
You got it, man. There he is, Billy Lucci, talking Texas A&M. Biggest game ever.